AFR On Demand is brought to you by Breck Golf. Try Beaver Creek today, just 20 minutes from downtown Baton Rouge in the Zachary area. They've got a PGA Tour driving range, a short game practice area, 30 to 40-yard practice shots. It's a great place to chip and putt and practice if you don't have time for a full round. Book your tee time today, golf.breck.org, golf.breck.org.
Matt Moscona.
I'm very important.
After further review.
Say it one more time.
After further review with Matt Moscona.
And here we go.
Live from the Raising Cane studio.
Let's ride!
And off we go. Welcome aboard. Glad you're with us. It's AFR, presented by Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness. I'm Matt.
This is Shaq O'Neal, and I hate Matt.
Cassie Spazzelli.
Oh, look what you made me do. Look what you made me do.
Yusuf.
I'm a Barbie girl in the Barbie world.
And Mr. Toby Tom. Play. All right, we're here. Glad you are as well. Get out there, make it a good one. Oh, by the way, it's a hump day. Yep.
It's hump day.
Let's hump, everybody.
Mike. What day is it, Mike?
We're at the halfway point of the week.
Hump day.
But the starting point of fall camp.
It's hump day.
We got an LSU practice report.
Mike. What day is it, Mike?
Saints were back on the practice field.
Hump day.
Stop traffic.
It's hump day.
Kendre Miller's in.
Mike. What day is it, Mike?
But they say it's no big deal.
Hump day.
Right.
It's hump day.
Ross Jackson will be here.
Mike. What day is it, Mike?
Not disappointed in Ross Jackson being here. I'm disappointed in Kendre Miller.
Hump day.
More legal stuff.
It's hump day.
Jeff Watson will be here in 30 minutes to explain it all.
Mike. What day is it, Mike?
Lane Kiffin met with reporters today.
Hump day.
They gave away Jaden Daniels' number.
It's hump day.
What are they doing?
Mike. What day is it, Mike?
Dripping with sarcasm.
Hump day.
We'll talk about it. Lot to do. Let's begin as we do every single day.
It's time to pop the top on another edition of AFR with Bud Light. Drink easy.
Tigers are off and running. Day one of fall camp in the books. It was one day. The media got to watch about 15 minutes. That might be generous. And they were in helmets and shorts. So what we talk about today, let's all agree we're not going to overreact. Now, you might be saying to yourself, how could Matt possibly take anything away from 12 to 15 minutes of practice?
Hey, Matt.
No, self.
Oh, hey, self. How could anyone take...
How could Matt?
Oh, okay, all right. Hey, self. How can Matt take away anything from 15 minutes of practice?
So glad that you were wondering that. This is my 20th season covering the team.
How about that?
20th.
Make you feel old?
I don't feel
Or
old
grateful.
at all. I feel awesome. But it is like, that's a big number.
That's a big
You're
round
like,
milestone, man.
That went fast. I've gotten really good at knowing where to train my eye to covering Les Miles for as long as I did. With the very abbreviated access we had, I got really good at learning where to train my eye to look for things in practice that might actually be interesting. So here we go. A couple notes. First and foremost, not the most impactful thing today, but the most interesting thing that everybody's wondering, Sam Levitt was 100%. So he's out there. He's in his cleats. Helmets, jersey, shorts for everybody. But Levitt was wearing sneakers for most of spring when he was coming off the list, Frank. He was out there doing everything. Zone read runs, throwing short, intermediate, deep passes. He looked great. I thought it was notable that Jace Brown and Trades Green, every rep they took with Sam Levitt throwing the football. And it may sound kind of obvious, but I learned that long ago with Jarvis Landry and Zach Mettenberger. So in 2011, when Jarvis, I'm not saying they were the first to do it, and certainly plenty have done it since, but it was the first time I remember noticing it. That was when Jarvis was a freshman, and Mettenberger had just transferred in from JUCO, and he had to sit out the 2011 season. And I guess he didn't have to sit out, but he had two veterans ahead of him with Jefferson and Lee. But I remember Jarvis would always get himself in line to pair with Mettenberger to make sure every rep he took was with Met, because he knew 12 and 13 was going to be with those guys. I think it's just very intentional. The Jace Brown and Trey Green, every rep they took today was with Sam Levitt. Of note with the running backs, Dylan Jones, Caden Durham were your 1-2. Harlan Berry ran third. That was a change from the spring. Again, day one, there's going to be a lot of competition. It's just where they're starting. I don't want to overreact to the backups, but it was with Huson Longstreet and Landon Clark, I'm going to say what I've said all along. I think they're very talented players who have a super high ceiling and will be very good college football players before their careers are over. They're just not yet. I think the large sample size we got in spring kind of revealed that. And I would have hoped that maybe today against Air, no defense, no pads, just pitch and catch with the receivers, they would have been a bit more accurate. They weren't. Landon Clark missed a deep ball to 80. Is it Barber? Braden Allen, the freshman from LCA, who's a 6'2" guy, long arm, big target, like against Air, and you miss him. It's like, that's tough. So would love to see more development. Again, it's one day against Air, no pads. I'm not going to overreact, but I would have hoped for a little bit more there. The real stories, I think, came defensively, because when they started practice, the defense did a pursuit drill, and the drill is whatever. But what was interesting is that they lined up with their first 11, their second 11, their third 11, their fourth 11. They went as a group, 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s. And so we got to look at who was running with each, and that's where maybe the biggest surprise of the day was, and it was not what I was expecting, because I went out there looking to see, okay, where's the defensive line rotating? Where's Lamar Brown? Well, the biggest surprise was that with the first group at safety, it was, we obviously know Ty Benefield is going to be there, but Tamarcus Cooley's the incumbent. Tamarcus Cooley was not the first safety with Ty Benefield. It was Jace Thomas, the redshirt freshman from Destrehan, who was running opposite him. So your first defense, this is almost a given. Uman Mielen and Ross were your ends. Deuce Gerald's, Malik Blockton were at tackle. Your linebackers were Weeks and Daughtery. Your corners were Pickett and Woodland. Deshaun Spears at star. And then your safeties, as we mentioned, were Benefield and Jace Thomas. The twos, this was really cool. Lamar Brown ran with the twos at left end. So, I mean, we're all excited about Lamar Brown. We've seen him forever and talked about him forever. So to finally see him out there in an LSU uniform was really cool. And he's wearing 55. In the 55 practice jersey, he was like this faded 55. I'm like, it don't matter that you're the number one player in the country. Brother, you're a freshman, so here's a faded jersey. Here's a faded jersey for you. You can barely even read the 55 on the front. But so Lamar Brown and Dylan Carpenter were your edges, and your second-team tackles were Richard Anderson and Stephylan Green. Anderson changed his number. He was 94 in the spring. He's wearing 88 now. Your linebackers were Devon Keys, Tylen Singleton. CJ Jim Coyley was at star. Your corners, Jakeem Jackson and Michael Turner. That's one of the other big questions that I'll be watching throughout camp is how we know Pickett and Woodland are locked in. How do the backups roll? Jakeem Jackson is a fourth-year player, former top 10 cornerback. His career's basically been slowed by injuries, but he's sort of the next guy, especially with Aiden Anding out. Well, who's next? Is it Haven Finney? Is it Michael Turner? Is it someone young like Amari Peterson? Is it Traylon James, the transfer? Well, today it was Michael Turner there. So, and then Fahim Delane and Tamarcus Cooley were the safeties with the twos. I don't need to run through the threes and the fours defensively. Just know that Don McKinley and Brandon Brown were the tackles with the threes. So Don McKinley, the former five-star entering his junior year, I'm not saying he won't be impactful. I think he will. He will play a role and will take a lot of snaps defensively, but he has an uphill climb because those two freshmen have jumped ahead of him here from the pole position. A couple other things, just as I sort of empty the notebook, we did not get to see any special teams today. I guess the specialists were inside, and then Ed Ogeron today during individuals was working with the edge rushers. So Kevin Peoples was working with the interior tackles. Ogeron was helping out with the edge rushers, and you could hear his voice booming from anywhere on the field. When I left and came back for Lane Kiffin, the press conference, And as I was getting out of my car in lot 108 across the street from football ops, like I could hear Ed Ogeron's voice booming from the practice field. It's hard to explain just how far away that is, but it is unmistakable having Coach O back. And obviously the other sort of newsy thing today, Lane Kiffin said everybody was healthy. Everyone they expected to be there was there. 100% attendance, nobody limited. That's great to see. None of the no contact jerseys, so everybody's a go. Whit Weeks, full go after the ankle surgery, all that stuff. DJ Pickett is wearing number 5. That was notable. He wore number 3 last year, and Lane said after practice it was a recruiting promise that the former staff made to Pickett that if he came, he could wear number 5. Of course, 5 is the number that Jaden Daniels wore during his time in Baton Rouge when he won the Heisman. They have not issued 5 since Jaden. They've not issued 9 since Joe Burrow. Sort of quote-unquote unofficially retired until now, but DJ Pickett will wear number 5. So I have some more thoughts on that. We'll get to that maybe a bit later in the show. But just a few quick tidbits here from day one out at LSU fall camp. They'll be back on the practice field Thursday evening. It's something Lane's doing, kind of alternating. He'll go morning, night, and then after a night practice, they're going to have a walkthrough. So Thursday will be a night practice. Media does have availability at 6:35 p.m. for a couple of periods, and then Friday they'll have a walkthrough, and we do not have access for the walkthrough Friday. But every time Lane gives us access, we'll be there. We'll tell you what we see as the Tigers are off and running here in fall camp. All right, it's After Further Review. Show Up and Every Day is brought to you by Bud Light. Drink easy with a great taste of Bud Light, the official beer of AFR. The official beer, your Fighting Tigers of LSU. So as you're gearing up for this football season, the maiden voyage of the Kiffin era of the Lane train, make sure you toast the Tigers with delicious ice-cold Bud Light. You can find it in the officially licensed LSU bottles. They look awesome. They got the shoulder pad stripes, the alternating purple, gold, white stripes that you see on the LSU shoulder pads right there on the bottles. They look great. Pick them up at great local retailers or ask for Bud Light by name at your favorite watering hole or restaurant. Drink easy with a great taste of Bud Light, the official beer of the Tigers and the official beer of the New Orleans Saints. All right, it's After Further Review. Speaking of the Saints, after a day off yesterday, Saints were back on the practice field today. Ross Jackson will be here for our full report at the top of hour number 3. But in the post-practice presser, Kellen Moore talked about 3 players in particular that I found most interesting. We'll knock those 3 out when we come back on AFR.
AFR.
I tell you every day about Glow Resources. Have for years. Jareth Knockan and the gang, they do an awesome job over at Glow Resources. And I also tell you that at Glow Resources, they're based right here in Baton Rouge. Home base is Baton Rouge, Perkins Road. They have an office in New Orleans. They do business quite literally all over the world. And if you go to glowresources.com/careers, glowresources.com/careers, you'll see all the job openings that they have. And you'll see Denham Springs, you'll see Texas, you'll see Sanford, North Carolina. There's Salt Lake City, Utah, Port St. Lucie, Florida, New Orleans, Louisiana, Charlotte, North Carolina, LaPorte, Texas. I mean, literally international jobs available as well, everywhere. So if you're looking for work or you're a business owner who is maybe trying to hire, glowresources.com. Glowresources.com is where you need to go. GLO, glowresources.com.
After Further Review, presented by Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness. Visit yourgoodwood.com.
Silvers, Keyshawn kind of had a little calf thing come up. Kendre had a back. Christian Miller had a little toe. Those were kind of the main guys that kind of had a little something that came up. So keep an eye on the rest of the guys.
You heard what he said? Devastating.
I did. I heard it.
Christian Miller. He's got a toe.
It's a shame, man.
Few come back from a toe.
Prime of his career.
He's got a toe.
A little toe.
A little toe.
So is that not as bad? Or is it just actually the little toe?
Here's what I've learned. A toe is a toe.
Toe is a toe.
You got a toe. You don't be dismissive of the toe.
Nope.
A toe is a toe. That was Kellen Moore after day 6 of Saints camp. Keyshawn Silver. I had to ask Moose who that is. So he's not making the team. Kendre Miller and then Christian Miller are the 3 he mentioned there. So it doesn't seem like anything serious as of this point anyway. But there's 3 things that Kellen Moore talked about in his post-practice availability that I found interesting. First and foremost is Kendre Miller. And he sort of, Kellen Moore, but can you play number 2? This was sort of the follow-up there. And this was a pretty consistent line of questioning about Kendre Miller today from the reporters in attendance.
So was Kendre being limited yesterday related to this back injury, or was it?
He had a little bit back, just kind of last few days. His back's just, he'll be okay. Nothing worrisome, but just keep an eye on him.
Nothing worrisome, but of course we're going to worry. They followed up if there was concern with Kendre given the injury history.
No, I'm good. No, I'm not worried. I'm not worried. Kendre's, guys just have little things that come up during this, and so he was out there early, and so we're just continuing to build these guys the right way.
Okay, they followed up. Was the plan for him to be limited?
I think to him just continue to practice. He'll get reps today. Obviously, anytime something like this comes up, we'll spasm. Then you just check it and make sure everyone's good. So that's what we're going to do with Kendre.
Okay. I'm not being dismissive of Kellen Moore. I understand that he's the head coach. He has to sit there, and it is mandated through the collective bargaining agreement that he meet with reporters and answer questions. And he makes a lot of money as the coach of the team and all that stuff. So, too, is it fair for every reporter in that gaggle to ask persistent questions about Kendre Miller, because this is the problem with Kendre Miller. Nobody doubts the ability, the athleticism, the speed. When he's right, he looks awesome. It's the reason the Saints used as high a draft pick as they did on Kendre Miller when they drafted him out of TCU. He was a third-round pick. He was number 71 overall. They invested a high degree of draft capital in a guy who, during his time in TCU, never shouldered a huge load of a burden of carries or anything like that because of how they used him. So the perception was, okay, well, he came in with a lot of tread on the tires still. As a freshman, he had 54 carries in the COVID year. As a sophomore, he had 83. And then he had the one big year in 2022 where he had 224 carries in the year where TCU went and played all the way for the national championship. Well, you look at Miller during his time in the NFL, he's played in 8, 6, and 7 games in his 3 seasons in the NFL with the Saints. And he's coming off a torn ACL now. And we all know that his inability to stay healthy, even in camp. Whenever they were out in camp in California with the final year of the Dennis Allen era, and he pulled the hamstring the first day of workouts, it was just like Dennis Allen was done. And last year was a new beginning for Kendre Miller, and he really looked explosive, even returning kicks during the preseason a season ago. And when you look, he averaged 4.1 yards a carry. That was a career high last year. So when he was out there, he was performing at a level he hadn't yet in his career, which was really great. And then he had the unfortunate ACL. But when you have an injury history and you are injury prone, anything that limits you or takes you away from the field is something people are going to consider and going to talk about. And I think Kendre Miller is someone, we talked about it before camp started when we were looking at camp storylines. He is someone that has to make this team because Travis Etienne and Alvin Kamara are on they're making the team. They are in. Kendre Miller, because you invested a third-round pick in him, you're going to give him every opportunity, but Audric Estime played really well a season ago in his limited opportunities late in the season. You drafted Devin Neal. It was a 6th-round pick, but that's still someone that you look at as having draft capital invested in, and you're willing to give him a shot, especially if they're the right person. And then you can look at the rest of that room where you've added Ty Chandler, who's a 28-year-old. He's a young veteran. You got C.J. Donaldson as well. The point is, it's far from a given that Kendre Miller is going to make this team. So he's got to get healthy and got to get out there. So that's certainly one worth watching. On the complete opposite end of that spectrum is Jonas Sanker. And it caught my ear today when Kellen Moore was talking about Sanker because Sanker has just completely removed all doubt that he is the starter at the star position in this defense. This is what Kellen Moore said on Wednesday.
playing the star, you're in the middle essentially of everything. You're in the action always. You have to have some element of disguise there. And so he does a really good job. I think he's going to continue to build that ownership of that position as far as understanding, what to sell from a quarterback perspective. Quarterbacks look at these stars a lot. That usually you're trying to gather as much information from them. This back end, they can be all over the place before the snap, but you're trying to keep an eye on this guy. And so he's just got to keep doing a good job of being creative enough, but steady and consistent.
I want to point something out that this will make sense when I say it, that you may not notice it, but I'll notice it. Muse will notice it because of what we do. If you look at the audio sheet that we have, right, Kellen Moore don't say nothing. His answers, 9 seconds, 11 seconds, 7 seconds, 10 seconds, 10 seconds. There's one for 23 seconds. You go to and you're like, he don't say nothing. He tries intentionally not to say anything. He's asked about Jonas Sanker, gives you a 30-second answer. Coaches will often choose to talk about the things they want to talk about and be elaborative about it. The fact that Kellen Moore, uninterrupted, gave you 30 seconds on Jonas Sanker tells you he likes Jonas Sanker at star. And this is one of those things that kind of popped into my brain. It's really just been hammered into my brain because our buddy Ross Jackson over at LouisianaSports.net, I feel like Ross wrote about Jonas Sanker every day for 3 months. Now, that's an exaggeration, but it was such a central part of Saints minicamp and OTAs. The offseason work was trying to find out, Alontae Taylor's gone now in Tennessee, how they were going to make the rotation work at corner and star and nickel and all the stuff. And Jonas Sanker just grabbed that thing by the throat and refused to let go. But this was Jonas Sanker talking about how playing safety helped him move it in this role.
At the end of the day, I think safety is just a different approach in terms of just being more patient and understanding that you are the last line of defense. Whereas at nickel, there's a little more room, for error because, let's say you fit on the wrong side of your man, the safety behind you has got to make you right. And that was kind of, what I was learning last year as a safety. And now, being in that other role, I understand, okay, I know my safety's expecting to fit here. Let me not screw him over and go the wrong way. So it's good.
When you look at Jonas Sanker's snaps a season ago, he had 649 snaps at free safety, 267 as a box safety, and then 55 in the slot. So by a country mile, the role he's playing now was his smallest impact a season ago, playing that slot, you want to call it slot, nickel, corner, star, whatever you want to call it, right? Not the boundary corner, not playing deep at safety, but that safety closer to the line playing in the slot. Played 55 snaps there a year ago. I mean, he's been there, but not very expansive and elaborative, which is why in this offseason, that was a wide open role. Like, it ain't no more. Like, Jonas, that is one position that, barring injury, knock on Formica, is done. And Jonas Sanker is telling you it. Kellen Moore is telling you, like, that position is locked down by Jonas Sanker, which is awesome to see. That clearly is a draft hit with Sanker coming out of Virginia a year ago, playing some deep safety for you at the free, and now moving into that star role. Hopefully when they kick it off and play for real, he plays up to the level. But right now they're telling you they ain't got anybody better than him playing that role right now, which is really good when you get answers to questions that early in camp. And then the other is something that should hit close to home, and it was Barion Brown. And Barion Brown is a guy who dropped all the way in around 6 when the Saints took him, but has this real explosive ability as a returner, right? I mean, he has the SEC record for combined return touchdowns in a career. So Barion Brown is going to make the New Orleans Saints roster as a return specialist. Like, with Rashid Shaheed being traded a year ago, like, this is a given. I mean, Barion Brown is making the team, and he will be your primary return specialist. Punt, kickoff, that's what he's going to do. He's going to make the team to do that and be a receiver depth piece. The real question, though, is can he be a better receiver and work his way up into more of the rotation to get targets at receiver and not just be a return specialist, a special teams guy, and a depth piece. And this was so interesting. Keep it at 8, please. This was so interesting listening to Kellen Moore talk today about Barion Brown and what they saw from him while they were going through the evaluation before the draft.
We watched a lot of evidence of him playing receiver and playing impactful plays in the SEC for a number of years, not just the LSU year, but the Kentucky year. And when you watch all that exposure and get to know Barion, you're really fired up to have this guy. And so he's doing a great job. And I think the hardest part for these young guys really isn't the physical. There's an acclimation there, but there's so much mental. And so I think that's credit to him that he's been really prepared to go out there and play.
Remember, the knock on Barion Brown when he got to LSU. Do you remember? Remember the knock? The knock on Barion Brown was drops. He had too many drops. I went back and looked it up today. These are the the attributed drops from Pro Football Focus. Again, maybe other outlets give him more, but as a freshman, he dropped 5. As a sophomore, he dropped 6. As a junior, that was his injury season at Kentucky, 4. And then last year with LSU, dropped 6. So drops were a problem for Barion Brown during his 4 years in college. But Kellen Moore's telling you, like, the physical has been there for Brown. He keeps flashing big plays. The question really for young guys is the mental, and he's actually acclimated way faster than you would anticipate. I look at this and I go, with the news of Jalen Polk's retirement, it's going to open the door for somebody because it just clears the deck. It removes a chair. So somebody gets to move up, or moves someone from a chair, so someone gets to move up. Like we know Olave and Polk are there at the front, and Vele, with his play late in the year, probably earned that opportunity. But what's to say Barion Brown doesn't come in and leapfrog Bryce Lance and Devon Vele and maybe become your number 3? I'm not predicting it, saying it's going to happen. What I'm saying is you have a guy with a dynamic skill set who has big playability and track speed, but is also clearly figuring out the mental component of the game and may factor in more as a receiver than we, Saints, anyone thought here initially. So great to see from the former LSU Tiger making waves early in Saints camp. Ross Jackson will be here in 90 minutes. At the top of hour 3, we'll get a full practice report from Wednesday out at Saints camp. That's coming up. All right, it's After Further Review. We're brought to you by Arco Power Systems, ARCCO, Arco.com, Arco.com, Arco.com. Arco provides industrial generator power. So nursing homes, grocery chains, hospitals, hotels, banks, chemical plants, gas stations, universities, governments, municipalities, anything. If power goes out, think, how does it affect my business? That's Arco. And everything's turnkey. Sell, service, install, rent, industrial generators. It's Arco Power Systems, ARCCO, Arco.com. They work 24/7 during disasters. The worst time to start formulating a plan is when the storm is in the Gulf. So call Arco Power Systems today at Arco.com. ARCCO. Be proactive. Arco.com, Arco.com, Arco.com. All right, it's After Further Review. Lane Kiffin spent a lot of his post-practice press conference today discussing Sam Levitt. We're going to get to that in 30 minutes. So if you have to leave, come back. When we come back, though, Jeff Watson is going to be here from Gordon McKernan Injury Attorneys. Jeff handles a lot of the NIL stuff for Gordon and his team, the G team and all that stuff. He's been on the show quite a bit. There was another development in that the 5-for-5 eligibility case that was turned on its head by the judge's ruling last Friday and has evolved several times since. Well, a judge in Georgia today spun that thing on its head again. So we'll get Jeff here and he'll explain everything when we come back. It's AFR.
AFR.
We're brought to you by River City's 1 Hour Air, where they're always on time or you don't pay a dime. 752-0001, 752-0001, 752-0001, or 1hourbr.com. You know how to find them, ONE1hourbr.com. Look for the big yellow vans and trucks with the giant clock on the side. You see them all over town because our friends at River City's 1 Hour Air have done right by Baton Rouge residents for 4 decades. That's why they have double the amount of 5-star Google reviews of their next closest competitor. That's why I love reading these for you, because it's so relatable. This is one from Linda, who said, DJ, the technician, did an awesome job. He was professional, polite, explained everything to me. He took his time and did the job. I am very pleased with the work from River City's 1 Hour Air. 752-0001, 752-0001. If you need work done on your AC, or maybe you need a new AC, you need the best. You want River City's 1 Hour Air. 752-0001. Better coverage for less money. That's Insurance Network of Louisiana. That's what they do. Give them a buzz at 293-0450. As a matter of fact, I know they're in the office because during that commercial break, I was literally texting with Adam. So you can, why don't you do this right now? Even if you don't want him to shop for your insurance, just to bother him. Call 293-0450, 293-0450, 293-0450. Just ask for Adam. Say, hey, Scone just told me to call you to bother you. That'd actually be really funny. Just like flood the office with calls. 293-0450 or lainsurance.net. It's really easy. I've told you about them for years. And they're great to work with. They, at Insurance Network of Louisiana, they shop independently for free, dozens of the top-rated companies in the world, to find you better coverage for less money. So it doesn't matter if it's for your home, your auto, your business, workers' comp, commercial auto, anything. You want better coverage for less money? Insurance Network of Louisiana can make it happen. 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
After further review, presented by Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness. Visit yourgoodwood.com.
All right, last Friday, a judge in a ruling, the 5 for 5, all the recent graduating seniors could have another year of eligibility, kind of flipped everything on its head, then had to issue a clarification. Well, today a judge in Georgia has done something else crazy. Let's ask an attorney, Jeff Watson, our buddy from Gordon McKernan Injury Attorneys, who handles all the NIL stuff for Gordon. Good enough to join us to explain all this stuff. Okay, thank you for the time. How are you?
Hey, dude. Doing good, bud.
We appreciate you as always, man. All right, let's go back to Friday. Did I oversimplify it, or can you just oversimplify what happened on Friday?
Yeah, so if you go back in June of 2026 when NCAA approved this age-based eligibility rule where they said, now you get 5 years to play 5. In that, they made the 2022 high school graduating class not eligible for their 5th year. Those are kids that only played 4 years and not paid the 5th. Well, right after that, multiple lawsuits were filed for those athletes that fit that. And that's kind of where and why we got to the ruling on Friday with the judge who basically said, no, they can play. And then on Sunday clarified, but nothing else changes. And what that means is no new transfer portal. They can go back to the school that they were at. If they sign a pro contract, they can't, and kind of limited it to if you were a 5th-year senior, you could go back to the school that you played for if they had a roster spot and if they had rev share cap to pay you to get you on the roster.
Okay. So I know a lot of people from an LSU perspective asked me, they're like, well, could a guy like Jack Pyburn come back? Well, Jack went undrafted, but he signed a UDFA deal with the Bucks and is in camp with them right now. So that's a no, right? I mean, he signed a professional contract, so he's not eligible to come back, correct? Under that ruling?
Under that ruling, yes, and until today, where in Georgia a new federal ruling came down, which we'll talk about in a second.
Okay, well, let's talk about that. What happened? What happened today?
So let me give you the timeline real quick, and that'll kind of help.
Okay.
So the lawsuits were filed. Then we have the Colorado ruling, and then the exchange with the judge coming and clarifying. The NCAA comes out and says, number one, we're filing an appeal. And number two, if anyone tries a ghost transfer, then we're going to hit you with a 50%, losing your coach for 50% of the year and fines. And what a ghost transfer is someone who did not enter the transfer portal, but then transferred to another school under some other reasoning to get outside of the transfer portal.
Okay.
And they call them ghost transfers. Okay. So the NCAA came out on their statement and said, we're going to hammer you if you try to do this. Okay. So then more lawsuits are filed. And then today, a Georgia federal judge comes down and says, not only are the 5th-year players eligible, but you need to open a transfer portal window for them and allow them to transfer wherever they want to transfer. It also shielded players who had signed professional contracts during their period of ineligibility. Those kids thought that's the only decision that they had. So they signed deals. So what the Georgia ruling said is, under certain circumstances, those kids are also allowed to go back to college. And NCAA, what you stated about the 50% suspension of the coaches and all of that, you're not going to be able to do that either. So it was Colorado ruling that expanded it into these areas and basically told the NCAA, you can't do any of that.
Okay.
And so that's
please.
what happened today.
So who has the authority then to make the decision? Like, which ultimately is upheld? Is it the Colorado judge, the Georgia judge, the NCAA? Who wins here?
Exactly. And so what the NCAA did also filed is a motion with the judge in Colorado to stay her injunction. So when we say these rulings and what's happening, what they're doing is the judges are saying, NCAA, you were enjoined from applying your bylaws because they violate the athlete's contract that they have with you to be professional athletes and be able to make money.
Mm-hmm.
So when we say the rulings, what those judges are saying is you're not allowed to enforce your bylaws. Sit back, you can't enforce it, and you're not going to do anything. So the NCAA filed a motion to stay the injunction saying, look, we're appealing this, so why don't you stay that ruling until it goes through the appeal process? And so they filed that as well, which I do not expect to be agreed. I don't think that the judge is going to rule that way because it makes her initial ruling useless.
Do we have
I don't think that.
Jeff, do we have any idea how many athletes this applies to?
I mean, I would say it's every sport. It's got to be however many 2022 class, football, basketball, volleyball, every sport. I mean, thousands.
Right, but you got a lot of players from the class of 22 that are already in their professional sport that don't have any interest in coming back.
True.
I'm curious, how many might actually, want to. I reached out to some folks at LSU on Monday to say, hey, have any sports had any contact with players or any interest? And as of Monday morning, we're now here Wednesday, 48 hours later, a little more than that. Maybe it's been more, but there were none at that point. So I'm curious where all of this is going to lead. What's going to be the end game here?
Yeah, where the big thing is the transfer portal. Okay, a lot of these kids can't go back to their school because those schools have filled their roster and spent all their rev share money. But if they can get in the transfer portal, now they have a lot of opportunities of schools that say, hey, we have a backup safety spot. We have a backup tight end spot. We have some cap left under our rev share. And so the transfer portal ruling to me is the most important one because it allows those kids to move and go other places. If you're making them go back to the school they were in, well, most of those schools are filled that spot because that particular spot left. That tight end, that safety, that cornerback left. And if he wants to come back, like a kicker like Damian Ramos, he was a fifth-year guy, but we filled the kicker spot, And so a player like that really would like to get into the transfer portal so they can see what opportunities are out there for them.
So, Jeff, what's next?
So we talked about this every time we talk. Remember I told you we need a lot more of this happening so that it makes it to where Congress and we can get to a collective bargain and get some decisions. So this all helps fast track that because all of these issues keep coming up. Every time the NCAA creates a bylaw in June of 26 this year and then tries to enforce it, multiple lawsuits are filed. And then even when decisions are made on that ruling is then lawsuits are filed and is changed. And then right now you have Ohio, Tennessee, Colorado, New Jersey, Texas, Oklahoma, and Georgia who all have rulings enjoining the NCAA from applying their bylaws that they created in June of 2026.
Yeah.
So we need more and more of this. We can get to a spot where we can get collective bargaining, get some rules, and everybody can agree to this. Because, again, what's happening is the NCAA is making rules with no input by the players because there's no collective bargaining. It's the NCAA making a bylaw or a rule with the safety where the players are not involved. And this will never get to a point where we can have rules in place that everyone will follow until there's collective bargaining between the players and the NCAA. And then everybody can agree That's the rules that we want. Now college football and college sports is set, and let's abide by these rules.
Players have to be considered employees for that to happen, and judges have consistently not allowed players to unionize. So that's a giant hurdle that still has to be cleared to get to that point.
And that's why it's getting ramped up in Congress with the Protect College Sports Act that has been revamped now. You know, when it came out, they had a lot of people issuing statements that they weren't for it. Those people have now been negotiating, going back and forth, and revising that act. And now they are putting statements out saying, hey, we've looked at it again. The Big Ten, the SEC just did one saying, okay, that version of the act we like.
Yeah.
And so all of this is getting us closer and closer, but this is what it takes.
Jeff Watson, attorney Jeff Watson, Gordon McKernan Injury Attorneys, handles a ton of the NIL law with the LSU guys with Gordon's team. And we appreciate the clarification as always. Thank you for the time.
Thanks, Matt. Have a good one, buddy.
You too, man. We'll visit soon. It's After Further Review, brought to you by Parish Construction and Roofing, parishbuilt.com, parishbuilt.com. Do business with someone you know. That's me and Tilly and Terrio, our whole crew. And, of course, our new partner, Drew Brees, will be inducted, I should say, to the Pro Football Hall of Fame this weekend. We're fired up to have Drew on the team, and we're thrilled that he trusted us. And we encourage you to do the same. Roof repairs, roof replacements, commercial, residential, gutters, soft wash. We do everything. We do it all over the southern part of the state. Got an Austin, Texas office as well. So if you're listening to ATX, we'd love to help you out. Do business with someone you know. Parish Construction and Roofing. Just fill out the form on the homepage. We'll schedule that free, no-obligation roofing inspection. Parishbuilt.com, parishbuilt.com, parishbuilt.com. All right, y'all, it's After Further Review. We'll knock out our final break, wrap up hour number 1 when we come back. We just flipped around the SEC, so we'll hit that when we come back if we have time. Stay here. It's AFR.
After Further Review.
You know, every day when we talk about Duplessis pools, I tell you about building a new pool. And if you're thinking of building a new pool, yeah, you want Duplessis pools because they're the best. They've been named a top 50 pool builder in America each of the last 2 years by Pool and Spa Magazine. But the only Louisiana pool builder, by the way, to earn that recognition. They've got it back-to-back years. But there's so much more as well. At Duplessis Pools, they can remodel your current pool. Like Eric and I, the house we bought had a pool. It was very, not only dated, there was just a lot of work that needed to be done to the pool. It needed to be replastered, needed a new pool deck. We needed to redo the water wall, basically a whole new pool. Well, Duplessis can do that for you. So if you have a pool that just needs some TLC, needs some updating, you know, to remodel, renovate your current pool, Duplessis Pools can help you there. And if you're starting from scratch, nobody better than Derek Duplessis and the gang over at Duplessis Pools. Log on, pick your pool right there on the homepage, duplessispools.com, duplessispools.com. A top 50 pool builder in America, it's duplessispools.com.
After Further Review, presented by Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness. Visit yourgoodwood.com.
5 days, August the 10th, the College Football Playoff Management Committee, they'll gather for their first substantive meeting in 7 months to discuss the future of the college football playoff format. They'll talk to a lot of the media advisors. They'll talk about scheduling, TV windows. There's a lot to talk about. Rich Clark, who runs the CFP now, said, quote, there's so many considerations regarding the calendar, regarding student safety and health, regarding campus schedules, the schedule for finals and things like that. Where are we going to play these games? What's the calendar really going to look like? What's the revenue discussion look like? What does that do to things like conference championships? Yes, there are a lot of considerations therein. The thing that I have always fallen back on is, the FCS has had a 2014 playoff forever. Like, there is a way. There's a model. And it's actually pretty easy to figure out how to make it work with the calendar. The tricky part, which I get, are things like contractual obligations with conference championship games and then media rights and revenue. But it's not. We have the conversation about competitive balance. Do you want 24? Do you want 12? Some people want to go backwards to 4 or 8, which ain't happening. Do you want 16? We talk about competitive balance in the regular season and all that stuff. The people in that room, that's not what they're talking about. They're talking about logistics and mostly money. Mostly money. It's why we're having the conversation. It's why forever college football was never expanding the playoff until they needed more money and realized, okay, expand college football playoff, more money from your TV partners. This will help solve that problem. Now we're interested. How do you make it work? That's what they're having. You know where I stand. I want them to go to 24. I hope they do. I think that's where they'll land. We'll see. But 5 days from now, August 10th, is that meeting. When it happens, we'll certainly talk about it. That's coming up on Monday. All right, what do you have? First South Farm Credit. FirstSouthFarmCredit.com, FirstSouthFarmCredit.com. If you're thinking of buying land, your first call should be to First South Farm Credit. They've been helping Louisianians buy land for 100 years. Man, you want land for that hunting property. You want land, your recreational property in Mississippi. You work hard. Give yourself that little getaway nearby where you can feel like you're getting far, far away from home, but it's a quick jaunt away. Maybe you're tired of hunting on somebody else's land. You want your own. First South Farm Credit can make that happen. Every year, of course, they offer the patronage refund, which effectively lowers your cost of borrowing. They're amazing to work with. Their lenders have been doing this for more than 100 years. They can help you out. It's FirstSouthFarmCredit.com. FirstSouthFarmCredit.com. All right, let's roll quickly. Let's go around the SEC.
Around the SEC, bringing you the biggest news from the nation's best conference, the Florida Gators.
New OC Buster Faulkner said no timeline to name a quarterback. Aaron Philo, the Georgia Tech transfer, is thought to be the leader, but redshirt freshman Tramel Jones is also in the mix.
The Georgia Bulldogs.
Kirby Smart gave an update on Dante Dowell and Kyron Jones ahead of Wednesday's practice. So they're both doing better, but does not have a timeline yet to rejoin.
The Alabama Crimson Tide.
Five-star freshman running back E.J. Crowell, who missed spring recovering from an undisclosed injury, quote, did some nice things as the Tide opened camp on Wednesday. We'll see. He was the top running back in the 2026 class.
The Tennessee Volunteers.
Vols have landed Vandy transfer center Jalen Washington, averaged 9 and 5 a season ago. He's a 6'10", 245-pound big man staying in the state of Tennessee.
The Arkansas Razorbacks.
And Arkansas will play another in-state opponent next season, Central Arkansas, for the third straight year. There you have it. That is Around the SEC. It's AFR, presented by Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness.
After further review.
As we take you up to Sports Center here, I love telling you about Shaw Bills Tire and Auto Service, ShawBillsTire.com. Locations all over South Louisiana. Started in Morgan City back in 1968, ventured up to Baton Rouge. Now they cover much of South Louisiana. Not that you need a history lesson, but I give you the history because it's important. Because if you opened up your business almost 60 years ago and you're still going strong and you've expanded and your thing when you opened was we're going to sell the best tires at the cheapest price and treat you like family so you keep coming back and 60 years later you're doing the same thing, you kind of got it figured out. So that's Shaw Bills. And I love when I get notes from y'all who will say, hey, man, I've heard you talk about Shaw Bills for years, needed a tire, needed tires, went to Shaw Bills. I get it. They've got a customer for life. I hear that so much from my listeners. I'm thrilled whenever I hear it. They're the best. ShawBillsTire.com, 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 Shaw Bills. We keep you rolling.